Well, here we are on Interstate 90, about 60 miles east of Rapid City, South Dakota. We are heading to the Delta 9, which is a Minuteman II missile silo. Once we get to visit that, we're going to head down the road some more. We're going to go down to the Delta 1, which is the missile launch control facility for the Minuteman II missile. I had an invitation or a reservation or whatever you want to call it. I was able to get in, or we were able to get in. This was the only opening they had for the entire year. Now they do tours of this launch control facility, and they only take 6 people at a time. And they had this opening. I got an email, said there's this opening, and this was a last spur of the moment thing. We were, boom, we had 2 days notice, and I said we're doing it, and hit the road. 14 hours later, we're in Rapid City, South Dakota, and now we're, like I said, we're headed to the Delta 9, which is where the actual missile is, or one of the missiles, because they had, I believe the control center actually launches 10 missiles, and this is one of the 10, hence the Delta 9, and so we're going to go there, and that is just open to the public, generally, something like 8 to 5, something like that. And it's got gates and everything, but it's kind of a self-guided tour. But they do have the plexiglass over the missile silo, and I think they might have a cell phone tour thing where you listen to it, and it kind of walks you through the whole experience of it. Which, if that is the case, we're definitely going to have to use it today, because today, right now, we're running at 40-mile-an-hour winds. And to go outside and me try to talk on the camera, that's not going to happen. You wouldn't hear anything. And then I would have those people complaining that I need a windsock on my camera. Sorry, a windsock's not going to work at 40 miles an hour. So you can just keep those comments, understand, I put a windsock on the mic when I can, but it doesn't always work when the wind's too strong. But anyway, so the whole deal is that we were able to get into this Delta 1 launch control facility today, and I didn't want to pass up on the chance, so boom, we're in the car 14 hours later, and now we're about a half an hour away from the missile, and we actually have an appointment at 2 o'clock to be at the launch control facility. And like I said, they limit it to 6 people max to go in this place. And there's actually, I think they call it, it's a guided tour by a ranger dude that tells you all about it. So we'll start out from the outside, and then we're going to go inside, go down below, and it should be very similar to if you watched our video of the MX missile launch control facility in Wyoming, outside of Cheyenne. They took one of these control facilities, but it was a Minuteman III missile silo, and they took the Minuteman III missile silo and they converted it to the MX missile silo launch control facility that actually launched 10 MX missiles, which of course they carried 10 multiple entry re-entry vehicles, which was 100 nukes basically, until we had the, I can't remember if it was the START treaties or the SALT treaties, a strategic arm limitation treaties, or one of those treaties where we got rid of the MX missile, and that's how we was able to get into the MX missile launch control facility. But anyway, it should be similar to that, where it kind of looks like the launch control facility kind of looks like a farmhouse. You got some outbuildings, you got this normal building outside, and you walk into it, and it's got all security. You get in the elevator, you go down into the actual launch center. But once we get closer, we'll get back with you, and we'll show you the Delta 9, the missile silo with the missile in it, and then after that we'll be able to get to the Delta 1, the launch control facility. So until then, we'll catch up with you.
A few moments later.
All right, just got off the interstate, going through the country, as you can see, and we're headed to the Delta 9 missile site. Actually, there it is right over there. That is one of the, where are we at? There we go. That is the sign. Oh, there's the missile right underneath that cover. That is a Minuteman II missile here at the Delta 9. And like I said before, I believe the launch control facility controlled 10 of those. We'll find out a little later once we get to the launch control facility and they give us a little more info, but I'm pretty sure they launched 10 of them. So it's quite interesting from the, if you watched our video of the Titan II missile tour that we went on in Arizona, which was also pretty cool. That's a self-contained. You got the missile, you got the crew launchers, you got everything all there, all in one place. And so one missile, one crew. So that's kind of cool. But then, of course, that was the, the earlier days. And here we are with the, now we got one control facility that controls up to 10 of these. And these aren't manned right here. These aren't manned facilities. They just had security, which was quite elaborate of how they could figure out if somebody, besides the motion sensors and all that other good stuff. But here we are at the, let's see what we got here. The Minuteman National Historic Site Delta, Delta 9 facility. And it looks like they even got porta-johns over there. But we're going to cruise over here and see if we can, because this is the road going into it, or maybe you have to walk. I'm not sure. Walking. Okay.
There it is. It's locked.
Now I'm not sure. But anyway, that is Delta 9, and there's, looks like you got porta-johns, look like a little info center. We're the only ones here, so I'm gonna back up and go check this out. And maybe because this wind is so crazy, we'll have to get on the cell phone speaker system, and if it's doable, then we will just talk to you. So we'll get back at you then. Well, here we are, just pulled into the facility. Oh, got a little history here. Got a little diagram of the missile itself. Now, pause kind of slow. I'll scroll kind of slow so you can read it. But this one, in what does it say? In 2001, they put the glass top over the launch doors there, so you can actually look down below it. And let me finish scrolling here. And then we have right here the front lines of the Cold War. Shows you a picture of the actual missile in the silo. And then this one here is MAD to start. MAD, that's a mutual assured destruction to start. And that was, that was one of the strategic arms limitation trees. I know that was solved. This is start. But basically, this one was decommissioned, I think, in like 91 or something like that. They got rid of the Minuteman II missiles. And of course, Reagan, he got rid of, no, actually Reagan started the MX missiles, which is the newest ones. And then, of course, the ones that outdated that one, or outdated or predated, the ones we're running now is the Minuteman III missile. So we got the Minuteman III missiles that we're still running currently. So we're gonna head on over there and take a look at that guy and catch up with you then. All right, well, here it just heading up, and as you can tell, the wind is going stupid. Restricted area. So here's you can call this phone number, and it actually will tell you about, looks like the different spots on the map. That's kind of interesting. So we might have to call that number and play it on here, especially when I'm walking around and the wind's really blowing. And I'll figure out, I'll try, let me put it this way, I'll try to figure out how to overlay that audio tour with me walking around here, because this is just going to be horrendous with the sound, with the wind, the sound of the wind. And if that don't work, then sorry, then you're just going to have to deal with the wind. So we'll do it that way. I will try, but if I don't, I can't. But we'll put I can't. So let's see what we got here. So 0.6 is the soft support building. Let's see, well obviously, let's see, number 9 is putting in a missile. Okay, so those are the different things they're going to talk about. Okay. And of course the most important thing is we're going to turn and we're going to look in this missile. Alright, so I'm going to pull out from behind the sign, and the wind's going to go stupid, and I do apologize, but you know, when you got a once in a year chance to do this, we kind of had to take it. So here we go. Oh, so this is a blast door. Look at this big blast door right here. This concrete thing right here, that's a big blast door that blasts back and exposes the missile. Oh, that's kind of cool. They got it lit up. Oh man, we got our reflection. Let me try to, oh, we got to get rid of the reflection here. Did that help a little bit? Yeah, I think that might have worked. I think. So that's a Minuteman 2. And of course we're running Minuteman 3s now. We did have the MX missile, and what they did is they took out the missiles from the Minuteman 3 silos, and they actually had to make them bigger, but they used the same silos the 3s were in that they put the MX missiles in. And then of course when one of the SALT or START treaties, we decommissioned it, so they went extinct. But anyway, this is the guy that could go, I think, 7,500 miles. Basically, he could hit Russia 30 minutes or less. So I think we saw earlier, they said that, what, 2001 is when they put this glass cover, which is kind of cool. So now you can actually see in it. And I'm going to go around here. And this whole concrete bunker thing looking, right, if you will, this whole thing is sitting on these tracks, and it came back and it was hydraulically opened up. And I believe this guy, I can't remember the time frame,
but he opened up, I forgot, you know, it was like 30 tons or something like that. But he opened up in like a few seconds. I can't remember because it was hydraulic and they had an accumulator set up on it. So as soon as the solenoids went, it just had that energy already ready to go and it just went boom. And it opened up this big solenoid, correction, solenoid. The solenoids what opened up this big blast door so the missile could take off. But they had all kinds of, and it was bigger than this. It went, you know, it was way bigger than this. It went out there because they had all kinds of intrusion sensors. They had all kinds of different antenna array. They had, you know, high frequency and they had low frequency. They had cameras, and you actually do go down. You can actually go down in this silo. Well, not us, but they did go down because that's how they had to maintain them. So they had ways they could get down below and check stuff out. But they had all kinds of security out here because it was unmanned, but they had all kinds of sensors that could tell them when there was anything. You know, even if a friggin' deer walked by, they knew that. But they had all kinds of facilities here to detect and also to make sure that the communication got to the missile. They had underground cables which, you know, stretched throughout the whole area. They're 10 miles down the road. They had cables in the ground. They also had radio frequency, high frequency, low frequency. So they had multiple ways to communicate. To tell this guy, oh, here we go with that reflection again. Dang it. To tell this guy to go take out the friggin' commie bastards. Oh, look at, I don't know if you can see that. There's actually an elevator basket for maintenance. The maintenance crew can get in there. And then it could go up and down the missile. It could go around. And of course, in these days, we weren't with the liquid fuel anymore like we were with the Atlas and the Titans. So we were solid fuel, so much more user-friendly, could stay in the silos, didn't have to replace fuel, stuff like that. So much more reliable. And I believe this guy, I think this guy was just a standard, he wasn't a multiple entry, re-entry vehicle, I believe. He was just like a 1.2 kiloton, something like that. Just one nuclear warhead per missile, I believe. So pretty dang cool. Pretty dang cool. Woo. And Twitch is a little chilly. All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up here at the Delta 9. And we're going to head down the road and we're going to head to the Delta 1, the launch control facility. And we will get a lot more information about this, especially once we get there and we get the Ranger guided tour. Give us a little bit more info. So we'll see you down the road.
1 hour later.
Well, we just pulled into the Delta 1. That's actually the facility over there, the launch control facility. Right over there. Of course, imagine this back in the day. It kind of looks like some kind of, you know, farmhouse type deal. Nonchalant, just kind of out here, and we can launch 10 missiles and wipe your country out. So this is it here. And over here on the right side, that's the little parking area. And they got restrooms and they got some history of it, some placards, I'm sure. And like you said, this play, you know, they actually have a audio tour, I think, where you actually call that cell phone number for this area too, and they actually explain to you how this launched them and everything and the history of it. But we have the reservations, but like I said, normally this is not open unless you have those reservations. So a lot of people just come here, you know, take pictures from the outside, but we actually get to go inside that guy, down below ground on the elevator, and actually go in the launch control room and everything. So that's pretty dang cool. And we're actually only about, this one is only like 5.8 miles from the actual missile itself, but I believe it did like a 10-mile radius or something like that. And I'm sure once we get in and they tell us more of the history, we'll learn more about that. But let's go ahead and get parked, and we're supposed to meet the ranger. Oh, actually, I think we meet him all the way over there, right there at the gate. That's where we meet the ranger, and he's going to bring us in and give us a tour of this place. So we'll catch up to you once we start going inside. Thank you.
Right, if you would.
Okay. I
There you go. All right. Well,
I was just noticing in here, did you used to keep the guns on that wall right there?
yeah, they had M16s and they had a M60, a pig, in there for the peacekeeper they added in the late 70s. That's an armor vehicle, sits outside the visitor center.
That's our next stop is Visitor Center.
Yeah, well, we won't until 4 there. Well, I'll reintroduce myself. I'm Jim Bench, former missileer here with 44th Missile Wing from 1971-75. Went on to fly on the Airborne Command Post system after that. Couple of things to pass on to you, kind of housekeeping things. If we can avoid sitting on anything, touching anything, or leaning on anything, just for future preservation for our kids and grandkids and what have you. Have we got any prior military folks with us today? What service, sir?
Army.
Great. What'd you do in the Army?
Small arms repair.
Wow, cool. Okay, take all the photographs that you want. This is my best side.
Hang on, let me zoom in on that. There we go, gotcha.
Thank you very much. Yeah. I'm particular about that. Let's see, where to start today. Let's talk about the outside here. This is the launch control facility. This is the support building for 8 enlisted folks topside. Okay, we had 2 officers downstairs, captain and lieutenant usually down in the launch control center. We had a facility manager and a cook who were basically on duty at all times, ready to be called up during the 36 or 3-day tour they had out here. Now, the missile crew only came out for a day on average. Back in the very early days, we come out in the morning, leave the next morning, one of us could sleep. Okay, that varied over the years. There were some changes to that. But these other folks were out for 3 days, on 12, off 12. We had 6 security police. The missiles had nobody out on them, so we had Doppler radar and vibration sensors. And if we got an alarm downstairs, we'd send them out 4 to 14 miles to check out the alarm. Okay. Usually it was rabbits. Rabbits drove us crazy. Never had a human. The signs say use of deadly force authorized. How many times have we had to shoot people over the last 65 years? Anybody want to guess?
Probably zero.
By 0.
I think it's 0. Now we had accidents where our own cops got shot accidentally by the other cops. But so they were out here for 3 days at a stretch. Outside this room here, this is the security control center. This is where the flight security controller sat and monitored that radio when his troops were in the field. They'd report back to us on what was going on, and he would pass on to the crew downstairs what had happened. But topside was mainly recreation and communication. Recreation for the folks that were out here and couldn't leave. Okay, you had a basketball hoop, you had a volleyball court, and a horseshoe pit there. Communications-wise, the thing is stuck up there is a high-frequency receive-only antenna. The beauty of that is if it got knocked down, you had 4 more underground that could pop up a little bit.
Oh wow, that's kind of cool.
And go back to listen to HF radio. And the one over here that's got the danger sign, looks like an upside-down snow cone. That's a UHF transmit and receiver antenna. That's how we talk to the Airborne Command Post once a week. Remember, I was telling the folks there, we test them from the air once a week, just to make sure we could reach them. I flew on the airborne for 7 years after 4 years underground here. Helicopter landing pad back over there for UH-1 Huey helicopters. We got our sewage lagoon over there. Of course, we didn't have city sewer or city water. And our water was a well, very deep artesian well right there, 3,000 to 5,000 feet deep.
Oh, wow.
Very nice well. Now from the distance, I-90, millions of people have gone all up and down that interstate over the years. Do you think the Russians knew exactly where we were and what we were doing?
Probably not.
I think eventually they did.
Yep, they did. As a matter of fact, we were a deterrent force, so to have a good deterrent, you've got to have a really good weapon system. The other side's got to know they got to know you're going to use it on them if they do something stupid. Okay, so it was to our benefit that they know, and it would be very hard to disguise these places anyway. All you had to do was follow a power line out in the middle of nowhere, and you had a missile.
Yep.
Okay, and this is a monster area. I mean, this missile field covered 13,500 square miles, bigger than the state of Maryland. Okay, and our own people get lost out there, so we had signpost sticks with arrows on them, telling them exactly where these missiles were. So our own people get lost. So they knew. So we had them right where we wanted them. They could see that we weren't out working on these missiles on a day-to-day basis. Okay, so they were reliable. They knew that they were solid propellant. They knew we didn't have to raise them up to launch them. They were ready to go hot right out of the tube. Probably knew that the gyros were spinning and they were set on a primary target already. And we could roll these things out of here in a matter of minutes. I'm going to show you how to do it downstairs, how it would have been 50 years ago anyway.
Yep.
And it can't be that much different now. The capsules look different now, though. They sit right side by side, and they've each got two things to turn. We had one key, but we were separated by 12 feet, and that was all nuclear safety stuff.
Yep.
So no guys, two separate guys in two separate capsules bashing their partner in the head and starting to roll through
Yep.
because it took two
Two people
capsules
to do it.
to do it. Absolutely. Okay, real quick briefing here on the overall picture. Height of the Cold War, we had 6 Minuteman wings. START Treaty of 1991 came along and shut down 44th Missile Wing here at Ellsworth, and the other ones in black, Grand Forks, North Dakota, the 321st, and Whiteman, Missouri, the 351st. The ones that are left remaining are the 90th, based out of F.E. Warren, Shawnee, Wyoming. Most of the missiles are actually in Nebraska. The 91st at Minot, and the 341st at Mounts from Great Falls, Montana. So we got about a little less than 400 out of the original 1,000 missiles are out there.
That's still quite a few.
Oh yeah. They're going to be replaced by what's called the Sentinel. It's being built by Northrop Grumman, and it's years away. I mean,
That's what's going to replace the Minuteman 3.
Minuteman 3s, yeah, they're out there right now. Yeah. Wildly expensive. 141 billion is the last number I heard.
Oh, wow.
But what's the price of not doing it? You know,
Yep,
that's the
upgrading.
question there.
It is.
They've upgraded the Minuteman. It's like Model T Ford. It's kind of like the B-52, only the B-52 is going to be going longer than the Minuteman 3.
Yeah, it is.
It's
It
amazing,
is.
it's amazing it's still in the area.
It's crazy. You know, you guys know we're getting the B-21 here, the
Yep.
stealth bomber at Ellsworth. That's going to be quite a deal.
I can't wait to see it.
Me either. I'm really looking forward to that. The 3 wings that are left are all 3 squadrons. Squadrons is the basic fighting unit in the United States Air Force. Of course, they're laid out differently geographically, but we're down here at Delta 1, and it's kind of the southeast corner. You notice there's 5 flights per squadron. Each flight had 10 missiles. We were assigned for those 10 warheads, so we watched over them carefully, but it took any 2 of these things with 2 officers in each one, a captain, lieutenant, 2 lieutenants sometimes, to launch any one up to all 50 of the missiles. So we could lose 3 for whatever reason and still get the missiles off. If we lost 4 or 5, airborne command posts would take over and launch the rest of them for us.
So you mean this place here could actually launch 10 missiles?
We could actually participate in launching from 1 to 50 missiles.
Okay. But it took 2 of these control centers to actually launch. It wasn't just the two guys down there turning keys.
No.
It took another two guys somewhere else doing it also.
You bet. It was whoever happened to get the key turns in the fastest. And they had
Okay.
to, within each capsule, they had to turn within 2 seconds.
Okay.
The other one might be 5 seconds off, from that other.
Sure.
It took 2 launch votes.
Okay.
And we couldn't launch anything in anybody else's squadron either. All the missiles in the launch control centers were connected by a hardened intersite cable or a Hicks cable buried 4 to 8 feet underground. And we'll talk more about it. I'm going to show you an example when we get downstairs. There was 1,732 miles of that in the missile wing, enough to reach from here to Miami, Florida, if you put it all in one line.
Wow.
So it's very,
So
very,
there's still 2 more launch control centers in South Dakota yet, like this, that were there at one time?
no, this is it.
This is it?
Launch control center, this is the last launch control center and launcher pair of its type in the world.
Oh, wow.
Yep, you bet. Now they've got a launch control center at Whiteman Air Force Base. It's very similar, but there's no missile, and that one's on base. And they've got a Minuteman 3 Sylvania capsule launch control center in North Dakota,
Okay.
called Oscar Zero. But it's an entirely different launch. You can run laps in it. It's so big.
Oh, wow.
And I was ops officer over 50 missileers up there to 447th for a couple of years.
Well, we did the MX missile launch control facility in Wyoming.
Yep.
That was one of these that was converted to for the MXs,
Yeah,
correct?
that Chugwater, it was that 400th missile squadron there. They converted. They were the only squadron ever out of the total of 20 squadrons we had, 10 missiles. That was converted into MX.
Right,
Peacekeeper. It was a bigger missile. It was cold launched, tossed out of there with steam or high pressure air, and then fired once it cleared the
Okay,
tube.
kind of like a submarine launch type, like it
It's
boosted
like
out,
submarine.
then the rockets took over.
It carried up to 10 warheads.
Right, yeah,
it's
I remember
a
that,
huge
yeah.
missile, but
Yeah.
they shut it down as well. Now here, local to this flight, this is Delta flight. You can see Delta 2 to 11 went around in a clockwise fashion, 4 to 14 miles away from the launch control center, at least
Okay.
3 miles away from each other to keep the Russians from getting more than one target with one bomb.
We drove up by Faith last weekend, and I seen like 3 missile areas where they were. You can see the fences,
Oh yeah.
and we can see
Yep, you
them.
bet. That's all that's left. They pulled the missiles out, blew them up 30 feet down, shoved the 90-ton launcher closure door in there, capped that off with 2 feet of concrete, 2 big slabs, and then the Russians came over here. We went over there. They left them open for 90 days so the satellites could pick up what was going
And
on.
they did something with the B-52s too. They cut some wings off and cut them in half.
Same
so,
thing.
so they can see
down
them.
at the boneyard, yeah.
Yep.
Down in near Phoenix.
Yep.
Well, let's step back here into the back. We're going to walk through the building and take a look and see what we got.
Yeah, this is so close to the MX
This,
missile.
well, this wasn't. This being renovated last time last year.
Right. Like I said, it's so close to that MX missile control facility. Remember, now they converted it to the MX launcher. Oh.
One of the real fiasco there, the first load of monies was in a truck wreck.
Oh boy.
They had to go back and redo it. And then we got those and they had leaky seals. Well, actually, it was leaky seals first. They had to redo and then those were.
Oh wow.
Truck crash, so it took forever to get those monies going. Now, once again, we had, let's see, we're missing, there we go.
So would this be like an officer's quarters here with just one bed?
No, that would be the facility manager. He was the tech sergeant, master sergeant,
Oh, okay.
the oldest guy on the site, 35, 40 years old. Everybody else was 25 or younger.
Oh, okay.
He was the boss topside. We banked on him for his leadership, make sure everything was copacetic. Ran the HVAC system through the snow, moved big piles of snow with front end loader. Had to be multi-qualified in all kinds of equipment. Had his own phone, so that was a real status symbol back in those days.
It was.
Really, I mean, we take it for granted so much anymore. I mean,
Oh, technology's changed so much
cell phones,
too.
we do computers were dragging along with us, and man, that would have been. I wouldn't have believed you 50 years ago you'd have something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Technology's evolved a lot.
But yeah, they were the boss topside. Now down this way, we had a lot of spare rooms here. If we had visitors like contractors or whatever, we didn't have to send them back to the base or Rapid City. They could spend the night or the week or whatever here. Our 2 teams of security alert folks, the ones that went out to the missiles, stayed in there, and their bosses, the guys up there in the security control center, flight security controllers, stayed in there. They kept their weapons with them, so we had an extra set of guns if we were under attack. I think the main reason we never have been attacked is they could easily take over the top side. I mean, they'd be in for a fight,
Yeah.
but I'm not running our cops down. But when they got downstairs, it would take them 2 to 3 days to get through that blast door. I think it's 16,000 pounds of steel and concrete. So nobody, I think, is stupid enough to put themselves in that position. You'd be a fish in a barrel down there. And especially if you had damaged stuff or hurt anybody topside. I imagine the responders might be a little torqued off at you.
Oh yeah.
I would not want to be on the receiving end of that.
Oh yeah.
So that, I think that was the thinking on that. The cook had a little room here, but it got even smaller in 1985. And if you'll take a look at the folks that took their room away from them, oh no, it was the ladies. Oh no, we didn't have very many women here.
Yeah.
When I was here, an occasional combat targeting team chief woman, lieutenant,
Yep.
and visitors maybe. What we do is we just flip the sign over to women on the other side there and put a guard out here. So Mr. Tiger Whitey didn't walk in.
Yep.
And, but no, we got our first security police women and cooks in 1985. In 1988, we got our first all-women officer crews downstairs. 1989, they went to the dreaded mixed gender crew. You thought the world was going to end, folks. Did the world end?
No.
I don't think so. Nah, but it came close.
Yeah.
Well, you can see the spouse's opinion. I mean, you're going to put my husband behind a 16,000-pound door for 24 hours with who? I don't think so. And the Air Force came back with, well, as a matter of fact, we are. And women have done just a bang-up job. I mean, our current 20th Air Force commander, 2-star general, is a woman.
Yeah, I believe it.
And started out as a missileer in the turn of the century, 2000, and has done just very, very well.
Oh, nice.
You got 12,000 people under her and almost 400 ICBMs. So quite a move. Yeah.
Quite a responsibility.
Oh man. Well, let's step on out here to the day room. Day room is where folks could mix the on-duty and the off-duty folks. Might have a game of Uno going on. Have you guys ever played Uno, that card game? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of enjoying a resurgence, I think. I play with my great-grandson. He cheats. I don't know why I passed that on. No, he doesn't cheat as much as he makes up his own rules. You know, there's a lot of flexibility. That game complete. You talk to any 2 persons, and you're going to get two different sets of rules.
Yes.
And so I guess he's not really cheating. He's just injecting his opinion as to how it should be played. But Navy folks get a kick out of the battleship game. You know,
I
the
bet
Air
they do.
Force outfit. But these folks were, like I say, were out here for 3 days at a time, on 12, off 12, most of them. The cook, facility manager, of course, were on duty all
So when you
the
were here,
time.
were there still livestock out here where you could watch them once in a while? And
Well, yeah, you can see horses out there right
horses
now.
today,
Yeah,
so
you
was
bet.
that there then too?
Oh, back then, the guy that, Newman was his name, had a whole herd of goats and sheep. We got a fantastic photograph in the heavy fog out there, and the sheep are coming out of the fog toward the gate, and then they're all looking like the Serta sheep, you know, and
Yeah.
the caption under it is, "Sorry fellas, you have to have tickets," and they're all like this, you know.
Was your perimeter a little bit further than it is now, or is this actually the perimeter?
That is the perimeter right there.
Oh, wow.
And as you can see, there's the intake for our air conditioning system downstairs is just right there. What would keep somebody from throwing poison over there and poisonous? Well, we had CBR filters, chemical, radiological, biological filters that would filter the poison out. So that would have saved us there. But, well, let's step on down this way. The purpose of this building, the reason they saved it, was to show what it looked like, and the purpose of keeping it just as it was after we walked out in 1993 was just to reflect for future generations what they dealt with. And it wasn't all that grim. Things had changed over the 18 years since I was here. You know, furniture gets worn out, and we didn't have booths back then, back in the 70s or whatever. But Park Service has done a remarkable job with this place. We've got a very small park here. We're the least funded out of 63 parks in our region. And 2 years ago, they won the best maintenance award for the whole region. So we've got really good people here.
That's good.
And we're hoping to keep it that way. But
how long are you on? Where do you live, and do you commute, or how does that work?
I commute about 40,000 miles a year. I come in from West Rapid 5 days a week, so I put a lot of wear and tear on the car.
Yeah.
But not me. I just turn it on. I go to sleep.
Are these tours year-round?
I have a lot of racks.
Are these tours year-round, or? Okay, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, we offer anymore with the low manning we got. We offer 2 tours a day, 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock. There was a while there when we had a lot more people. We were able to offer more tours.
Yep.
And we were able to put rangers out at Delta 9 in the morning, the afternoon.
Oh,
There's some nice things that we could do, and I'm not complaining. It's just the way things are. You know.
Yeah, we stopped at Delta 9 on the way here.
Mm-hmm. With more people, we can do more. Is all I'm saying.
Yep.
You get a little more flexibility in what you can offer. But back in my day, you got one fuzzy channel on the TV.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and they went to a satellite dish 5 years before they shut down in 1988, so they could argue over 200 channels then.
Yeah, I bet that was
Yes.
quite a treat after that.
Oh, I imagine it was. Well, let's step around the corner to the Security Control Center. We'll talk about how we got into this place. When we pulled in the morning, we'd stop at the gate there and call in on the Motorola radio. There'd be something like us, Captain Bench +2, trip 1222. They'd buzz the electric lock on the gate. My deputy would open it unless the facility manager or one of the cops was out there. Park it right over there. Come in, and we both hand our IDs through the slot in the non-bulletproof glass right there. Even though they'd seen us 7 times that month already, and then 100 times, in the last year and a half. Oh well. The cook would be there, and we'd order lunch, maybe dinner. The facility manager would be there if he had anything to pass on to us that would impact us down in the capsule. If not, he'd probably be off doing his thing. So we got in here. The first thing we'd do is grab that direct line down to the Launch Control Center, pass it over to the facility manager, or to the flight security controller, and he would authenticate with the crew downstairs using a one-time NSA code pad that they burn immediately after that. And once that was good, the crew downstairs would buzz the electric lock. We control the lock to this door going into the elevator.
Oh, okay.
And once that was done, we step in, we're going to head down 31 feet 8 inches and back 40 years. Ooh.
That far down. That's not the worst. Somewhere deeper, I think. This one's pretty shallow.
Yeah, this one is very shallow launch control center. Most of them were 40 to 60 feet. Some of them were as deep as 90 feet. But it makes it nice for trips, having a ship. The little list there was for very sleepy people. Remember, you had one person had to be awake. Okay? So the person that drew the short straw and was up from 4 or 5 in the morning until changeover at 9 or 10. Don't forget your hat. Don't forget your got the credit card so you can fuel up at our little gas station out there. And don't forget the books to be burned. The lady asked, "Do you really burn books?" And I said, "Why, yeah." Lady shot on his lever, catcher on the rifle, noise complaint. My favorite was Fahrenheit 451. We bought ours up and put them in the bag, burn them every week, whereas the guys topside had to burn theirs right there.
Yeah.
Otherwise they had the code
Right.
on the thing. As we step out, you can see artwork, but there was no artwork here when I was here. Strategic Command, the United States Air Force ran a show of SAC, and they were very, very serious. So that was painted in 1988. In anticipation of our victory in the Cold
It's 30 minutes or less for Domino's Pizza.
Sprinkler artwork obviously is on our last one. It's kind of like Mozart on the aircraft. Lieutenant Tony Gatlin came up with that in 1990. Based on the color paint they had topside. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, Commander, he heard it and said, that sounded like a mountain or a Domino's pizza box. And Tony called it up and said, yeah.
Good, yeah.
Yeah. But the door itself was no joke. This thing is 16,000 pounds of protection for us, and the capsule, 3/4 inch steel plates sandwiched with concrete, like a bank vault, 12 pins here that would extend out into the wall there, like big chunks of metal that we had there. It took about a minute to open or close this thing, about 50 strokes on the handle here. It was done all, there were no assists to it. There were no motors or anything like that. It was all done manually. So you put the latch up, decided which way you wanted the pins to go. About a minute to do this, and then 60 pounds
Hydraulics.
of pressure. Yeah, this is a hydraulic pump that would retract or extend the pins. 60 pounds to get it going and 10 pounds to keep the door moving. So a small child could push the door open. That was all good stuff. The bad stuff is you get anything in front of it and you got to have somebody out here to get it out of the way. File that away for future reference because we may just get trapped down here.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
In the story I'm telling, not in reality. This door's staying exactly where it is. Okay, we're going to step in. Actually, we want to talk about the Higgs cable real briefly. This is at 1,732 miles. It's got a wireless cable system. 50 pair in there. We get the data in from our 50 missiles not later than 80 seconds after something happened out there. This was the 1972 computer, the same year that civilian world got Pong. Remember that?
Pretty crazy.
Anyway, they had the covering there to keep the rodents and the varmints and the water out. And then you had a sheath of copper that block any electromagnetic pulse from high altitude detonated nuclear weapons or solar flares, big solar flares. They had dehumidified air running through at low pressure too, so if anybody physically hacked into it, you get a pressure loss that we could track down to within a foot
Oh,
or
that's
two
pretty cool.
or where the cut happened. They come out and dig it out and repair it, put a repair box on it, and away you go.
With the ground out here in South Dakota, it's kind of gumbo areas, and the ground expands and contracts. Does that bother them at all?
You know, I don't know that it did. I think it took quite a bit of, the examples that I heard of were either the ground had eroded away from it and a plow hit it.
Yep.
And I understand maybe digging or backhoe looking, going for a stock dam wouldn't do it. But these things, we rarely had problems with them. But they did have to come to repair some of them. Now, safety briefing as we go in, everybody's got good shoes, but watch out for the chair rails in there. Watch out for bumping your head going through the tunnel junction there. And uneven floors. We got one hump there that's got grippy, trippy, anti-slippery tape on it that will trip you and let your head move into a yellow and black thing. We'll talk about that on the way out. That's a separate safety briefing. Any questions? I know I move along at a fairly high rate of speed.
No questions?
You're doing all right? All right. Good. Here we go. Delta 1, Launch Control Center. All right, you can lean on these there. These are non-artifact rails, so feel free to lean if your leaning gene is calling you that way. Yeah, that walks around the electrical surgery resting room, the ESA room. These things were Faraday cages once you closed the door and locked it.
Yep.
They would take up to 1,000 psi of overpressure. We can knock over buildings, I understand, at 10 psi.
Yeah.
But they were never built to withstand a direct hit from a nuclear weapon. Okay, back when these things were planned and built, the Russians couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with a broom, and we weren't much better. They was likely to hit Dakota or Wall or the Badlands as they were us. So they were a 1/4 inch steel plate though, followed by 4 feet of steel reinforced concrete. The rebar, the reinforcing bar in there, was not the little skinny stuff that we're used to in sidewalks and driveways. This is number 18
big
rebar, so
rebar.
a little bit heavier,
Yep.
and a lot of it there. So it would take quite a hit. We mentioned the air coming in and the CBR filter. Okay, that filtered out the bad stuff there, and then we could breathe it. It would exhaust through that tube up there, and both the intake and the exhaust had blast valves on them, so they would sense an overpressure, a blast outside, and slam shut automatically, sealing us off from the outside world if we had a bomb go off out there. And it would start up the emergency air conditioning unit right here, powered by 12 to 16 batteries under the deputy's chair rail, which is there so the deputy could, if they were strapped in, could get back and forth to all their equipment without unstrapping. Now I never strapped in here. I suppose over the 30 years that this place has been, they may have strapped in 3 or 4 times. There were periods where the readiness went way up and they would have started doing that stuff. They strapped in so they wouldn't become crash test dummies. We practiced in the simulators. We had 2 of those. That's where we practiced wars and fires and shutdowns, things like that. The things that are too dangerous to practice out here. And those were back at the base. They still have one at the South Dakota Air and Space Museum there at exit 67, the Ellsworth exit. The other one went to the Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio.
I was going to go to that one yet.
Yeah,
That's on my bucket list.
Yeah, it's been 60 years since I was there. I was there in ROTC summer camp back in '67. So it's not quite 60 years, but it's pushing it. Okay, now this thing, the Launch Control Center itself is a box like a shipping container. It's called the acoustical enclosure. It was held from the ceiling, and you'll see this as you come by here and look up. Held by 4 high-pressure shock absorbers, 2 here and 2 down at the other end. It would let this box hop up and down 2 feet, front to back, side to side, okay? And hence these seat belts. Okay. Let's step on in. As you pass by the toilet there, that replaced a P2 prison toilet. I think that must be a P3 prison toilet. If you could slide up to the blue curtain there.
It looks like what you see in pictures of prisons.
Not bad, you know, but you see the privacy deal, you know,
Yes.
once you got ladies down here, you got, and also around the bunk. They also added in nice acoustic padding to cut down the noise here, and nice commercial carpeting. We had chipped, highly polished linoleum squares when I was here. Communication on this side, we had the survival low frequency communication when I was here. We do not have these other 2. This is very low frequency waves, huge radio waves, 60 feet tall from top to bottom, travel at or below the surface of the land or water, would go thousands of miles. Very accurate but very slow. That would print out here. So they were real good backup means of communication. Now after I left, they added the satellite communication. This was the first iteration. They say it's more like satellite text messaging. And then toward the end of the 80s, they put this in just as they were closing down, much more advanced satellite communication. Now over here you see the little snack area, about a half-gallon coffee pot there. You can see how well things are strapped in. We didn't want to have anything heavy that was loose and that would take us out of the fight. You know, if we had one of those violent shock waves coming through the ground at hundreds of miles an hour, that would really upend your operation and could do you some serious damage. The deputy said here, their key, there were no red buttons to push. Deputy key went in right there. Commander's key went in right up here at the launch control panel. They were separated by 12 feet and had to be turned within 2 seconds of each other in each capsule. That was to prevent 2 crazies in 2 separate capsules from banging their partners in the head and started World War III, because back in Minuteman 1 era, I spent 2 years in that. You armed the missiles by just throwing a toggle switch. Well, things got safer after that. The naval panel came in, and you had to get a code that you had no access to day to day to even arm the missiles. Okay, so it's like cocking the hammer on a single-action pistol. You got to do that before you make the thing go bang. So that was the thinking behind that. 2 locks on this thing, on the safe. We didn't trust anybody. We did not know the combination of the other guy's lock. We brought them from a lock bar at the squadron. And the last thing we did changeover was inventory the sealed authenticators and the keys that were kept in there. Okay? Authenticators, I can't tell you much about except they had a semi-attractive cover, and they were about this big. Okay, we each had a set of them, and these would determine, we'd be able to determine whether the message to go to nuclear war was coming from the president or the successor, somebody who had the access to those codes. Okay, and that would be a big determinant. We had to do it independent of the other person, and we're going to walk you through an emergency war order sequence here very shortly. Checklist, very important. There's no oops in nukes. There's no mulligans in missiles. There's no second chance to get it right. You get it right the first time, or the world's in big trouble, or at least you're in very, very big trouble. Okay, so we use the checklist scrupulously. Two exceptions: no checklist for the pencil sharpener and toilet paper roll replacement. No checklist. Besides that, yeah, checklist or detailed instructions. Now, communications, we had to talk to the guys out at the missiles, guys and gals, Delta 2 through 11, this being Delta 1. They would call in because otherwise they just had that little two-way radio which wouldn't reach all the way back to the base or the Rapid City, and using either commercial dial 1 or 2 in our high-tech rotary device there, we'd call up, link them up with whoever they needed to talk to. Also, we could talk to the other capsules, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Echo, all at once or one at a time there, immediate access to the flight security controller, topside, and to our 3 radios, HF, UHF, and VHF. Okay. Moving over to the computer, this is that computer we were so proud of, DSAP, Data Store and Process, digital computer with a magnetic core memory. It had no vacuum tubes in it. 1972 computer would monitor all 50 of our missiles and give us a report back not later than 80 seconds on anything major that went on. In that case, it would print out, give us an alarm bell or buzzer, and light or lights on up at the MSIP, the Missile Status Indicator Panel, 10 rows of lights, one each for our 10 missiles in our flight. Okay. Protections. PES seals, positive enable seals, these came out the year after I left. They covered critical components, things that could arm or launch nuclear weapons. So these 3 drawers were critical. You would have them over the key switch covers too. These switches were checked, or these seals were checked by the oncoming crew every time with a special little light they call the Batman decoder. Magnifying glass and a blue light, okay? For any kind of breakage, any tampering. Why would you want to put the cover or the seal over your covers though here on your key switches?
Don't accidentally hit them. Oh, key covers?
The key covers, yeah, they went over the key covers. Anti-tampering. You could somebody could poke a pencil in there and break the lid off, and you'd never know it until you went to put your key in. So you could take a multi-million-dollar system down with a 10-cent pencil.
Yeah,
I never thought about that when I was on crew.
Yeah.
But they came up with that the next year. They still use them. They got a different name for them, and they're even more high-tech than these are. These got millions of little glass beads in them there, and they're very easy to break. And with that thing, you can tell.
Do they use internet in any of the newer systems?
No.
I wouldn't think they would, because you never want to be hacked.
You don't want to be. It's all that closed system over that
That's good.
Higgs cable. Okay, well, let's move up to the commander's console. We'll talk about what they're doing up there. Same comm panel that we had back there. The commander's key went in there. Controls for your radios there. Primary alerting system was our main way of receiving command control messages from headquarters SAC underground or their airborne, and our numbered Air Force command posts at Barksdale Air Force Base, Louisiana, or March Air Force Base, Riverside, California. We'd get a test over this thing. It sounded like this, and the real deal sounded like that too. It's called a warble tone, and then the test would run something like that. Skybird, this is the SAC Airborne Command Post with a test of the primary alerting system. Ring bull over, low tide over, looking glass out. Ring bull and low tide with the 15th Air Force and the 8th Air Force or 2nd Air Force command posts. Okay, and you had to acknowledge that we'd acknowledge it to Echo, our squadron command post, who would acknowledge it to Kilo, the alternate command post, who would acknowledge it to SAC headquarters and to our base command posts as well. You did not failed to acknowledge those things because they were tested whether you were awake or not. Really, is what they were. Yes, sir.
Question on that looking glass. You said that Airborne could actually launch these without the people in here.
Right.
How many people in the looking glass does it take to actually launch these? Here it took 4 people to turn the keys. How many people up in that plane?
It took 2 officers in there plus the pilot. The pilot had a decrypt switch, the LCC switch that would decrypt that message and allow it to be shot out in raw form. See,
Okay.
if we're going to war, there was no need in protecting the launch code anymore. You wanted that thing to hit there and be operational and launch those Norman missiles. So it took 3, but we didn't have any access unless the crews were destroyed. The crews gave us permission, or if all the cables going to a missile were cut. So we were restricted day to day to just testing. It would not take launch codes.
So they couldn't do it unless there was some kind of signal sent here that said, hey, they're disabled, they can't do their job?
Yeah, basically, yeah. They would, those were the circumstances that we could launch them. I can state that without going into any iffy areas.
Okay.
But, no, completely safe. All we could do day to day was test.
What's the screen up there? What's behind that?
That is a TV set. They didn't TV monitor. We didn't have one of those. We didn't have an AM/FM radio cassette player. So, what did we do? Well, we read. If you
Read a
didn't
lot,
read,
probably.
you became a reader. Okay.
I bet a lot of reading.
One of the big perks we had down here was a free or cheap master's degree. And about 50% of us took advantage of that. And it was the perks they got now. They get to wear Nomex one-piece or two-piece suits. They got really snappy leather jackets. They get incentive pay. They manage their career field. If they're going to stay in missiles, massage that. Whereas we were our own best personnel officers back in the day. We had to struggle to get jobs and work the system. If I sound jealous, it's because I am.
You are a little bit.
I'm bitter, you know.
You didn't have it back then.
Oh, any questions before we jump into WW3?
Nope.
All right, we're doing it, folks. Tim and I, my deputy, that was his real name, are in a higher state of readiness, so we're both awake. We get that warble tone over the primary learning system, and something like this comes across. Sierra, Alpha, Papa, November, Echo, Bravo, I say again. We write that down on our copy format in Greece. We've got our NSA code pad here. We're ready to copy this. We're very familiar with this. We do it, if not every day, quite often, so we can break these codes really quick. And the message that comes after they repeat that 3 times is just numbers and letters, just garbage. But we're used to garbage. I mean, we decipher that garbage real quick. Tim says, boss, we got to get in that safe right now. And I said, I agree. We went back, undid our locks there, laid our keys down. We got the authenticators. We each pull out the proper one for whatever it is. And we do this individually. The only person we both agree that it's a valid and authentic execution message. We're going to war. We don't have a lot of time to get this done. And this is what happens right after that. Okay. We insert those launch keys, put on our seat belts. Tim has got to do a couple of things back here at his station. He's got to dial in that code that we didn't have to enable the missiles, arm the missiles here. Throw a switch down, arming all 50 missiles. He tells the missiles which ones to go by dialing in a preparatory launch command, Alpha PLCA, code there from 01 to 99, initiates up. That tells the missiles which ones to go and which ones to stay. We don't know which ones are going to launch, okay? We do not know the targets on our missiles. Now, 27 years ago, they modified all the remaining 45 launch control centers in what they call REACT, which is rapid retargeting. So they have to know what the targets are, the coordinates and everything, okay? Back in our time, we had TS clearances, but no right to need to know that stuff. The targets were all picked by what was called the JSTPS, Joint Strategic Target Planning Staff. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines got together and decided what targets would be hit by what weapon, what delivery system, and when. The when being super important because you wanted to avoid fratricide, which is blowing up our own guys and gals and our own equipment and blowing up our allies and their stuff too. Okay, so all that was ironed out well in advance. We're watching that hand-wound submarine clock up there. 24-hour clock set for Zulu time, which is Greenwich Mean Time, Universal Standard Time, whatever you want to call it. All the clocks throughout the world are within seconds of each other. Okay. same time. So as that thing ticks down to 5 seconds before key turn time, we got a very narrow window to turn these things in. I call out to Tim on my mark. We've got our hands on the keys. 3, 2, 1, mark. We turn the keys, holding about 10 seconds until that green message transmitting light comes on and goes off. We release the keys. They snap back into the code used position. That is 1 launch vote. How many launch votes did it take?
2.
2, correct. Missiles are going to go into what's called terminal countdown, and this is the way it runs. Okay, we've got a naval all the way across there, all armed, remember. Launch command is 1 launch vote in. Launch in process, 2 launches in, 2 launch votes in. In terminal countdown, first thing, once it enters terminal countdown, you can't stop it. There are no destruct packages on these missiles, and you cannot guide them. So whatever you're seeing in Hollywood has got a fatal flaw to allow World War III to happen. If not, we would have had World War III before now, folks.
Yep.
Okay, but they're good movies. I love them. I love picking them apart. You know?
Oh, yeah.
They're just casually saying, all right, that ain't gonna
It's not
happen.
factual.
yeah, usually one of these, oh man, oh, here you go. But hey, it's fun picking them apart. Takes just a little over a minute to complete terminal countdown. 80% of that time is spent missile arming and or activating and deactivating electronic circuits, running a test on itself. It's going to fire up the batteries on your 3 stages, your solid propellant. Okay, until they're dormant. They're getting juiced up now. Okay, the last 10 and a half seconds are the exciting part. And this is what's going to happen almost simultaneously. An upper umbilical is going to pop off that guidance and control with explosive squibs. Another squib is going to fire tied to a wire. It's going to drag that mess of tubes and wires into a recess inside of that 12-foot launch tube, okay, getting it out of the way. About the same time, 2 gas generators, like howitzer shells, are firing, produce a tremendous amount of gas that drives this big piston down tied to a pulley and a cable that rolls that 90-ton, 180,000-pound door down those rails riding on 4 18-inch steel wheels. So hard it tosses that thing. It clears that 12-foot launch tube, okay, in less than 3 seconds.
I heard it was fast.
And it goes down so hard it's accelerating at that point. It jumps the rail, skips over the rocks, hits that north or south fence, and knocks it down. It's built to break down. So if you ever go out to see it, look at the south corner versus the north corner. They're built differently. They wanted to knock that thing down and let that door keep going so it did not drag anything into or over that launch tube. Stage 1 fires down at the bottom of that missile. 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit for about a second and a half before that missile, which is already unlocked, okay, from that shock absorbing system is tied to, we called it the donut, and it's moving within 1.1 seconds. Okay, it's starting to lift. The missile's on fire. It's got a cork ablative material down around the first half of it, and that cork is burning like crazy. Okay, it's smoky all the way, 2/3 of the way up the missile. It comes out in a ball of fire and smoke. Heading out of there. Each stage burns for about a minute, gets that warhead and guidance and control going in excess of 15,000 miles an hour over the North Pole. Range with our missile 6,000 miles. Range with the current one 7,000 miles plus. Okay.
Wow.
And the thing to remember is it's aimed at a target that isn't even there yet. This thing goes way out of the atmosphere. Okay? The Earth is turning and turns itself into a target right there. A little math involved in there somewhere, I think. A little calculation there. Anyway, we make a stroke down. Let me show you what the rest of the lights look like. There's all that stuff's happening with the umbilical and the gas generators. Power's on. The radar picks up the movement of the door. Missile away, lower umbilical separates. We make a stripe down there, so if we lose power, we know which missiles launched and how many we launched. And we call in the launch report to Echo, our command post, and they take care of forwarding on from there. We may get a call from the airborne. If they can't reach them, we'll give them a launch report from right here. We tighten our seat belts down. We're on borrowed time now. We haven't been taken out yet. And whack, we get hit by this massive pressure wave coming through hundreds of miles an hour. The Russians hit wall drug instead of us. and destroyed the world's finest collection of jackalopes. We don't care.
No loss.
But man, we have been thrashed. I mean, this thing went stop to stop, and this stuff falls down, and 30 years of dust comes down like dirty snow, you know. But we're okay, okay? But the elevator shafts collapsed, okay? But we choose to take the high road. What have we got versus what we don't have? Well, we got a day and a half's worth of ambient air in here. We got an oxygen regeneration unit behind those two black boxes, that little gray stubby thing, and potassium superoxide canisters in a blower. You got to crank that thing for 2 hours at a certain number of RPMs to suck the CO2 out of the air and replace it with oxygen down here. We've got a week's worth of food and water down there. We got Band-Aids. We got flashlights. We got inflatable pillows and cots, and we've got one Geiger counter and no protective suits. So that tells us right away we're not going to try to get out of here any faster than we have to. At least when Tim starts looking tasty, that's I know we've got to get out. He was stringy. And we were both armed. Can you imagine that? We got that movie scene where it says, "Safe when," you know, and we that's an awful thought. Anyway, so we're faced with the fact that we've got to get out, and we can't remember how to do this. And Tim says, well, I remember the first day of training, they told us there was an escape hatch. Okay, they gave us 15 minutes of training on that, I think, maybe a little less. I said, okay, pray tell, wise one, how do you find it? Okay, he says, well, you got to drop this drawbridge right there. And up inside there, if you guys want to come up to right here and view it, you have a orange painted disc up there. 544-pound steel door leads to a 3-foot corrugated steel tube filled with sand to keep it from collapsing day to day. Terminates 5 feet below the surface with a creosoted 2x4 and a waterproof membrane that you got to break through, dig out a bit, and then dig up 5 feet, and you're out of there supposedly. So I hand Tim the wrench to release that retaining strap around it. He says, "Boss, that thing's called Deputy Squisher." I say, "Well, Tim, you are the deputy, and this is not a democracy."
Yeah.
He goes, all right. He gets up there, he's sure he's going to get squashed, and he releases that retaining strap, and it falls back against the 6 chains just as advertised. The snow or the sand comes pouring out of there as advertised, goes down the side of the capsule, not into here, under the batteries. So I said, see, Tim, what were you worried about? I was sure he was going to get squished too. Otherwise, I'd have gone up.
Yep.
Anyway, he's up there digging away, and I'm back there cranking. He's cranking, I'm digging. That goes on for about 6 days. He finally pops up like a big prairie dog out by the flagpole, calls down, and we walk hand in hand to the nuclear wasteland.
Exactly.
Nobody believed that story. But everybody wants a second.
I'm sure if it happened today, it'd be a whole lot worse than it did 50 years ago.
God only knows what you have up in that tube. Yeah, if the tube was collapsed now or not.
Well,
I've
the
heard.
power of the nuclear warheads now are so much more than what we dropped on like Japan.
Oh yeah, well ours are actually bigger. Ours was bigger than what they've got now. They're more accurate. Though. They use a much smaller warhead, but the accuracy is so much better. They can use a smaller.
Somebody told me that we don't have to get super close because it's powerful enough to take out the area that we want.
Yeah, it all depends on what you're going after. A ground burst will dig a nice hole. We could dig a 300-foot hole. The SS-18s coming in from the Russians would dig a 400-foot hole. That was produced a lot of grim jokes, you know.
I'm sure.
Don't worry about the blast from nuclear weapons. The fall's going to kill you anyway.
Yep.
That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Who would like their picture taken by the commander's console?
How about taking pictures? We can take them.
Well, I'll take one of you.
All right. Would you guys like a picture?
Yeah.
Yeah. We did pad this though.
Oh, that's
Tipping point right there, sir. I'll be out in just a minute.
Oh yeah, they wouldn't have to do it cut down.
Step.
Fantastic.
Very similar to the MX missile facility.
It's pretty amazing that there's buildings back at that time.
The sump pump to pump the dirty water out was right under the floor there, and the thing right there looks like a chicken cage. Is the snow slider, so if you had somebody badly injured and the elevator didn't work, we could stop them in that and haul them up 15 feet, or 8 feet, and up another 15 feet and out of here.
How long did it take them to construct the whole system?
It took a little over 2 years to build this wing. It took only 6 years to build all 6 wings.
That's pretty fast.
Phenomenal.
It is, for what a bunch of work that was.
Yeah. Okay. Now, strategic air
Contractors
command.
figured out when they're building houses how fast they can go up, right? Look at the split and they're up.
Yep.
When you get practice doing it, you get better with every one. You know,
Yep.
faster and safer.
Send the concrete.
Do they use military personnel or do they use contractors?
No, there were contractors to build this place, yeah, except for when they started putting in secret stuff, you know, had to have, if they were civilians, they had to have clearances and all that. But, no, this is mainly done by contract work. Outfit, big outfit, multi-billion-dollar corporation out of Omaha still is in business. Peter Kiewit, K-I-E-W-E something really. Is, yeah, was the primary contractor here. Yeah, he had up to 2,800 construction people. They had two lives lost and 63 serious injuries building this place. Okay, folks, if we gather right here in this little room right here for just a minute, I'm going to pass on a couple of thoughts. First of all, thanks for coming out and keeping me employed. I appreciate it. I get to tell bad jokes and entertain myself and occasionally entertain the audience too.
I'm pretty fascinated with Cold War history, really, so that was when I was a kid, growing up through that stuff.
Oh yeah, you bet. It's a saying I really like goes like this: we sleep safe in our beds because rough people stand ready in the night. I think that's been true through the years. That is the #1 rule in the intercontinental ballistic missile business. The pointy end of the missile must go up.
Sorry.
With that, we will conclude the talk.
That would be best.
All right, thank you.
You're most welcome. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Well, that's our tour of the Delta 9 and the Delta 1, Minuteman 2 launch facility, and the missile. Hope you liked that adventure. Till our next one, say goodnight, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.
And that's all, folks.